Welcome to the Network Analysis in Systems Biology course. Thank you for signing up. In this first lecture, we are going to talk about complex systems. It is now clear that many sciences are facing with similar challenges. This is not only because we are dealing with large data sets, but also because complex systems have common design principles. In the field of systems biology, we care about the design principle of the complex system that is the cell. In this course, we're going to focus mostly on mammalian cells. However, we'll try to find analogies between the complex system of the human cell with technological complex systems. So what is science? One definition is systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observations and experimentations. So one thing to keep in mind about observations is that they have to be reproducible. Once we have a reproducible observation, we can form generalizations. Generalizations can be formulated mathematically or programmatically into models. These models give rise to theories. Once we have an accurate model, we can perform simulations or computations that can be used to predict unseen yet observations. The question about models and theories is how accurate and general they are. Once we obtain systematic knowledge about the physical and material world, we can use this knowledge to create new tools. Here, innovation and creativity are critical, and these new tools can now compete in an economic or in a social market, and the most fit tools will survive and evolve. So let's think of an example. One obvious example is the circular rhythms of days, months, years. These observations are well understood and can be predicted. Then, using this knowledge, calendars, clocks, and tools were invented by humans based on this scientific understanding. So one thing I would like you to try is to think about other examples. If you are coming from the fields of biology or systems biology, I would like you to think of examples where scientific discoveries led to the development of tools that helped us advance scientific discovery, further scientific discovery in biology. If you're coming from other fields, I'm sure you can find examples where science was used to develop new tools that were based on that science. So there is a yin-yang relationship or feedback loop between technology and science. So through technology that was assisted by science, we produce new tools that can be better used to observe things, and that advances science. Technology is also producing new complex systems that can be studied by science. For example, the stock market or the social network on Facebook. So far, almost all complex systems that were created by humans that have technological origins are created to extend human fitness. So those are tools that we invented to extend our fitness. So what is a complex system? Complex systems are made of many heterogeneous, diverse agents or agent parts that interact in various ways to form higher order, and complex systems are networks of agents. Agents are made of other agents or made from agent parts. However, complex systems are relatively difficult to define because they contain many properties. So there's no one characteristic that makes a complex system a complex system. So what is the science of complexity? So in the 80s, a set of prolific scientists banded together to form this new science, or to define this new science, to try to identify concepts across sciences. So the goal was to better understand, generalize, theorize, and predict the behavior of complex systems in general, not just in a particular field. So I use the term agent when I defined complex system. So what is an agent exactly? And an agent is a term that was invented by those complex system researchers, and it's an entity in complex system. It can actually be a complex system on its own, and it contains properties such as actuators. Those could be our arms and legs if the complex system is a human. Complex systems typically contain sensors, and these are our eyes or our nose. For example, if we are consider ourselves as a complex system. Typically, complex systems have a defense system. This could be our immune system in our body, or it could be some type of a mechanism within cells to actually have a self-defense from external attacks. Agents typically consume energy, and so they seek energy sources, consume them, convert them to an energy that can be utilized to do the various tasks that a complex agent is doing. Agents typically have boundaries, some type of a separator, a wall that separates the agents from other agents, as well as separate the agents from the environment. Natural agents can have this amazing ability to self-reproduce. Technological agents are typically reproduced in factories. Agents typically have some type of an oscillator inside of them, such as a heart or a circadian rhythm clock in cells. Many agents have a central processing unit. This could be our brain, or in the case of a cell, those are those networks that we're going to talk about, those cell signaling and gene regulatory networks that control the behavior of a cell. Agents also typically have a ability to self-repair. And if we think about cities, for example, this could be the police, hospitals. Agents also have advanced transportation systems. One thing to keep in mind about natural biological complex systems that they appear at different scales. So at the subcellular scale, we have complex agents such as the nucleus or the mitochondria, and those are independent systems within the system of a cell. The next level is the human cell, and that's going to be the focus of our course. Then the next level would be tissues and cell populations. This could be a heart, a liver, or a bacterial colony. Multicellular organisms such as us is another level of a scale in organization of natural complex systems. And the final level is those are ecosystems, social structures such as a pond, a rainforest, a beehive, countries, companies, and families. So one thing that I would like you to try is to identify at every one of those scales what are the agent component or the complex systems properties, such as the actuators, the sensors, in each of those systems that I mentioned here at the different layers of scale. So I mentioned that technology extends human fitness. So humans have invented products that increase their fitness. For example, a motorcycle increases our ability to move. Sunglasses or a microscope help us to improve our senses. Clothes help our defense from the natural environment. A megaphone or cell phones help us to communicate. And computers help us in general to process information and do a lot more things. So when I mentioned complex systems, I said that there are very different types of complex systems, and sometimes they share their properties and sometimes they don't. You have to distinguish between natural evolution and technological evolution. And there are differences between those types of systems that emerge in natural evolution and man-made evolution. And some of the differences are that the natural evolution takes a long time, billions of years to evolve, while man-made evolution seems to accelerate, and it's only been accelerating and on the move for maybe thousands of years. So one is very slow and the other one is fast. Natural evolution is limited to mutations that have to pass through generations. Whereas in technological evolution, you can have an idea and that can become a product overnight. However, there's some similarity between natural and man-made evolution. For example, the rate of evolution is different across different parts of our planet. In some areas, such as major cities, you see rapid evolution, while in other areas, there is very slow adaptation of change. We also want to distinguish between open and closed complex systems. So what I mean by closed systems, I'm talking about an individual agent that can be a complex system, like I mentioned before. So closed systems have defined boundaries, a central processing unit, a clock, sensors, actuators, utility apparatus. They are born, live, and die. They only grow to a defined size. They self-repair and reproduce. Open systems, on the other hand, have less defined boundaries, not clear governance. They have many agents of the same type, like the beehive or an ant colony, all acting stochastically, meaning that they act in random fashion. However, together they lead to an emergent behavior. So they look like they're all working together, even though individually they are acting randomly or self-serving. Open systems grow faster as they become more complex and diverse, and this is a general assessment. On the other hand, closed systems become less flexible as they grow in complexity. So it's harder for them to change as complexity increases. And this is an example. One ant is a closed system, but an ant colony can be considered an open system. I would like you to identify from your own personal experience some open and closed systems that you can consider complex systems, man-made and natural. So these are some examples to get you started. So the human cell, obviously, or human, a cow, the weather system, stock market, New York City, a tree, commercial air traffic systems. So not only try to identify additional complex systems, but also try to classify them as whether they are closed or open. So now I would like to focus on what this course is about, and this is the human or mouse cell. And here, after listening to these ideas about complex systems and agents, let's try to identify the parts of a cell. So now let's think about the human or mouse cell as an agent. Let's try to identify in the cell those general properties of agents in complex systems. So if we think about actuators, those could be decisions made by a cell, such as to crawl towards a specific direction, to differentiate into a specific lineage, to perform self-execution, which is apoptosis, or to proliferate. When we talk about sensors, and we're going to talk about those more later on, these could be receptors at the cell membrane or receptors at the nucleus. Those proteins listen to the environment and transmit information about the status of the environment into the insides of the cell. Cells also have defense systems, such as the interferon system. Cells have several boundaries, for example, the plasma membrane or the nuclear membrane. Cells obviously consume energy, for example, through conversion of glucose into ATP. Cells can self-reproduce, like I mentioned, through the cell cycle. They have a clock, which is typically the circadian rhythm clock. They have various transportation systems, for example, the retrograde transport, vesicle transports mechanisms. Cells also have self-repair mechanisms, such as the proteasome or the autophagy system. And the central processing system in a cell could be considered the cell signaling network and the gene regulatory network, which would be the main focus of our course.
Survival of the duplication, divergence, tagging, symbolizing,
filters and amplifiers.